ensure that data are used responsibly and ethically, and to create a world where innovations know no bounds. Once again, welcome here in Bratislava, welcome to the meeting, and welcome to a future filled with possibilities.
Thank you very much, Ivana. And now, please let me allow to call my colleagues from Slovak and Austrian Chamber of Commerce. Madam Zuzana Blažejová. Hello, Zuzana.
Thank you, Martinka. Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure and great honor to welcome you at this interesting event, also in the name of the Slovak Austrian Business Chamber. Data, in fact, is a big advantage in today's business world. And I think we can all agree that efficient and secure transfer of data is a very big innovation and also very important for business decisions. We can see the importance of data also in the case of Austrian companies investing or doing business in Slovakia, or Slovak companies expanding to the Austrian market. I understand that today's launch of the ITSA hub in Slovakia is in fact making our lives in terms of exchange of data much easier.
Thank you, Zuzana. Yes, it's true that for us, for the cluster, it's really important. I think in Slovakia, we are really a leader about data management, data governance, data legislation in Europe. Also, we are very active. So data is everywhere, and they don't know about the abroad. So it is important that Slovakia is on board, and it is the reason why I'm very happy that Industry Innovation Cluster will become today IDSA Hub.
Thank you very much. A few words about our business chamber. We were established more than 25 years ago as an independent association of individuals and corporates. We are in fact protecting the joint business interests of our members in Slovakia and also in Austria. We provide platform for meetings. We provide information to our members in various webinars, seminars. We also cooperate with other business chambers on various events. And we also cooperate with various clusters, including the innovation cluster, and we are also members of the Rule of Law initiative.
Thank you for this, because exactly you can find on your chairs from our cluster, it is our project about 10 principles how to support democracy during digital transformation. So really this topic is quite big. So this is our result of our project. So you can read it, and we will be happy if you will say us something about after during the network. What I wanted to say about the IIC, that we are a cluster. It is nice because we can focus on several topics, not a lot as a business chambers. It is the reason why the cooperation with these business chambers are really very important. And what I wanted to mention, it is exactly, for example, we are, as I mentioned, that as a leader in data economy, we were leader also in Gaia X, because we were second hub at the world, established by Ministry of Economy of Germany. And now we are as a IDSA hub in Slovakia. So hopefully it underlines this leadership in Slovakia. What I'd like to also underline, I know that you are a lot of men in our room, but I was in Berlin last week for EU Pro Gigant, and there were a lot of men on the panel to opening to speech. And I want to underline that in Slovakia we have 3 women at the beginning, so we are also leadership in this.
Oh wow, that sounds really good. Thank you very much, Martin.
Thank you, Ivana.
Okay, so I wish you very interesting discussions this afternoon and a very pleasant networking after the technical part of the event. And I hope that we will see each other also some other time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zuzana. And please, it is the time that we have to thank our partners. It is EIT Manufacturing, HB Ravis, SCDI, Slovak Austrian Chamber of Commerce, Ministry of Economy of the Slovak Republic, Gaia X Slovakia, EU Pro Gigant, International Data Spaces Association, and organizer is Industry Innovation Cluster. Thank you very much. Now, let me please to welcome Mr. State Secretary, Mr. Peter Švec from Ministry of Economy of the Slovak Republic to say us keynote messages.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Martinka, for organizing this event and inviting me so that I could be part of important event from my point of view and from point of view of Ministry of Economy. In March of this year, I attended a conference on Gaia X called Market X. The message that I still have in my mind is that our economy is challenging transformation from a material economy to data-driven economy. I'm glad that Slovakia could also host in September Gaia X Roadshow, which I officially opened on behalf of Ministry of Economy at the time, with the participation of the leader of Gaia X. In between, or since then, a few events happened. Some of them were mentioned by Martinka, like the fact that we are part of IDSA Hub Slovakia, and 2 weeks ago, EIT Manufacturing Slovakia X Fund was created. So step by step, it shows that Slovakia is on the track again, and it's a priority for us to pass this agenda for next or following leadership of Ministry of Economy and government as such. Our economy, like others, is going through many crises, and together with the twin transition, we must look for all possibilities to increase the competitiveness of our economy, for example, with the help of data and its sharing. Slovakia is an industrial economy, and industrial data are those available. We are connected to a pan-European production chain, therefore it is important for us to be able to apply European and global trends as effectively as possible. We at the Ministry of Economy, we don't want to just watch and to be recipient of all changes. We want to actively participate and be a reliable partner for our companies and other organizations in the area of digital transformation of the economy. Therefore, the Ministry of Economy is preparing several tools, or are on the way already, to support the introduction of digitalization and digital transformation and data management in Slovak enterprises, especially SME. For example, one open call now for digital vouchers is in the air that can be used for develop proposals for individual or individual solution for businesses in special areas, for example, in automation, optimization of internal processes, digitalization in industry production or finance, but also in ensuring cybersecurity or using artificial intelligence, as well as we all know, artificial intelligence without data will not bring us any benefits. The value of the voucher is 15,000 euro. In total, more than 12 million euro is allocated for this call. At the same time, we are preparing a call for supporting research in the field of digitalization of the economy, aimed at supporting the development of innovative solutions through digitalization of processes and the pilot testing and deployment in real environment. The allocation of that call is 40 million euro. We are also actively working to meet the goals of the digital decade, where one of the 4 pillars is precisely the business sector and its digital transformations. That's why I'm very glad that Slovakia has potential, expertise and data, and those confirmed the successful development of our cooperation. That's all from my side on the beginning. I would like to wish you interesting and fruitful, mostly, event of this afternoon, and looking forward to listen your presentation or discussion, and to have also a personal exchange with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, dear State Secretary from Ministry of Economy. And now we will try to understand what is IDSA. So Christoph Mertens, please come from IDSA and show us what is data spaces, please.
So I noticed that I changed a bit my look. That's only because with glasses I look different. Thank you for having me here. I'm really honored to speak in front of you, to also welcome our new hub here in Slovakia. My name is Christoph. I am head of adoption at the International Data Spaces Association. And first of all, I see a room full of people that are interested in data. And I think a good start into discussions and presentations is to create a common ground, because I don't know how deep you are already in the topic. So maybe if you heard about data spaces, you already can raise your hand for a second. So some hands going up, that's good. Perfect. What you will discover, the deeper you go into this rabbit hole, is that there are many, many topics out there, and it's also easy to be confused. It's a big topic. It's a very technical topic. And I would like to try to give you a picture with which you can have a sort of North Star for yourself to also see what you have in front of you. So let's start with a little experiment, maybe, because data spaces is at the end just a word. In case you already heard about it, you might have a picture in mind about what this is. In case you did not hear about it before, I'm sure you started to create a picture, and today, this day, is just a starting point to get a clearer picture about it. Another topic where you for sure have a clear picture in mind is marketplaces. And I'm not talking about digital marketplaces like Amazon Web Services or anything. I would like to invite you to think for just a moment about a marketplace where you go with your family on Saturdays to buy groceries. So like, imagine how the booths, the stands look, the products that they sell, price tags, the people, how they are dressed, the smell of food. And I think everyone here in the room has a picture in mind now. And maybe if you go to the next slide, this is a marketplace that I filmed in Tokyo. And I'm sure if we would now sit together, it's with sound. No, we don't need the sound. If we would sit together to exchange now our ideas, what you imagined as a marketplace, it would be totally different from what you see here on the video. For sure, you have different signs and letters on the wall. You will have different products. I can tell you the smell probably also will be different. The decoration is different. The products are different. And I'm showing you this because it is very difficult to start explaining what data spaces are and get to a consensus. Because if I would start with a concrete project, with a use case, I basically would show something like that. It would be concrete, it would be a full picture, very specific area, great solutions maybe, and you might like it or you might dislike it because of the picture that you already have in your mind what a data space is. So use cases are very tricky to get a starting point because of the consensus. The alternative to explain you now, and I will show a slide on that, but I don't go deep into this. The alternative to this, explaining you the architecture and the technical aspects, is not good either, because you might not be from a technical background. And even if you are, all that I would show you, and also maybe go to the next slide, please. The next slide shows a picture of our reference architecture. This is just talking about the picture of the marketplace, is just an empty booth. It's just a drawing of how a booth would like. There are no products, no concrete price tags, and for sure no people, and it's not a vivid ecosystem as I imagine a data space. So for me, a data space really is a vibrant ecosystem where data is shared, where rules are established, where a flourishing economy of data is established. And this picture does not transport that. So as I told you, I will not go into the depths. So we can talk about this during a coffee if you're interested in this technical aspects. But what I wanted to show you is there are these two ways. Going via use cases. Please keep in mind, this is in a lot of cases too concrete to be matching for you maybe. Or you can go via the technical aspects, but this is a hard way and it's not the vibrant, lovely ecosystem that I imagine. Please go to the next slide. The reason why data spaces are so important, regardless of how you start to explain it or also to understand it from your perspective, the reason why this is so important is not because data were not shared in the past. Data are shared right now in the very second that we are talking, but in a different way. So in the history, like one-to-one data exchange was the way to go. You connected with one company, you connected with one person. That's not a vivid ecosystem. In the meantime, I think we are at a stage where we can for sure talk about few-to-few data exchange. We have ecosystems where some people can exchange data. We have cloud solutions, we have AWS was already mentioned by me as one of the examples. There are many solutions out there. You can buy storage, you can upload data, you can even define rules for what your data can be used for. But these are sub-ecosystems, I would call it, from the data spaces perspective. They are also closed shop systems where you rely on the fact that the company that you want to exchange data with also has an account, also is part of this very ecosystem. And this is where we start to think, okay, maybe it should be different. It should be a data space that is much broader than the number of users of one solution. It should be something that is much opener, something that is easier to connect to, something where you have the full control of your data. And at the end, this is maybe one of the most important wordings here, where you have full sovereignty over your data, full data sovereignty. And it's a many-to-many data exchange. Next slide, please. Show you one example, one use case, and you might like it, you might not like it, you might connect with it, you might not. Let's discuss that later. One very matching example, how I think, is supply chains in huge production companies. You have the OEM, you have complex products, you have many suppliers on the first tier level. All the different parts for a car are sent to the OEM, where basically only the assembly of these parts is fulfilled. And yeah, especially in the automotive, I think we will have that also during the panel discussion, maybe later today. You have a very high complexity, first due to the number of parts and suppliers, but also due to supply mechanisms like just-in-time, just-in-sequence delivery. And current solutions in the automotive industry fall back to what you saw earlier. So few-to-few data exchanges, specifically established software that allows you to connect to the first tiers, especially, maybe also to second tiers, maybe to third tiers, but this is where it also can become already dark. And the idea for data spaces would be to not only allow you to connect to your first tier supplier, but really have connections to the entire supply chain. So being part of the data space for maybe the specific area of automotive supply chains, we will discuss that also later. Catena X is one specific project here. Will give you theoretical access to all data in the supply chain. And I'm here specifically not talking about open data. We also will have this discussion later today. It's not that you give all your data into this ecosystem, all of a sudden everyone has access to the full stack of data. It is on a very fine granular level possible for you to define this is my data, these are the rules that everyone in the ecosystem have to comply to. And maybe even some partners of the same ecosystem are not even able to see these data. So you can really have very great control over your data sets. And this enables, at the end, if you think about supply chains, you also all know that many struggles, and also in the production of a car, as one example, there can be many incidents leading to the fact that a just-in-time delivery is not possible, that there are parts that are that have quality issues. And being able to detect these issues very early and communicate them in this ecosystem is something where automotive industry is always trying to become better, more efficient. And I think data spaces here with the ability to connect to the entire supply chain are a great solution here. Next slide, please. Examples like this, like I said, are important, but not ideal, maybe, but still important, because there will be an example that you might be able to connect to. This is why we created already some time ago the so-called data space radar. What you see here, just in case you will browse our website and have a look at it, currently it looks different. This is a sneak peek. This is a pilot for the next version of our radar, where all data space initiatives and all use cases that we are aware of, and I'm not saying only we as IDSA, as International Data Spaces Association, I'm saying we as a community that consists of also Gaia-X and other initiatives that create examples and projects where they come together, where they show you and the world what is happening out there on different levels of maturity. This can start with an idea that we might discuss tonight with a wine and a napkin drawing, but this also includes concrete examples like the already mentioned Catena-X, which had a go live of the actual data space yesterday. And if you click once more, here's also the current link to the existing tool. Please stay tuned in case you want to experience the much more detailed dashboard that you saw now earlier. But here will be the place where you also can discover more examples. Next slide, please. The complexity of data spaces, we discussed it already earlier, is due to maybe also a misunderstanding. So looking at what Gaia-X stands for and what IDSA stands for is very important, because I did not talk to all of you yet, but I think here will be also some people looking for the business value behind it. This is the upper layer. So let's start from the top here. This is the interest of, I would say, even the most people out there. So how can we be more efficient? How can we create our use cases that will bring benefits to our supply chain, to any other scenario? This is the top layer of this stack. If you think back to the architecture slide earlier with the boxes, this business layer is enabled by those boxes, by not the theory behind it, but like there are companies out there providing software infrastructure that give you, as the ones with business interest, access to all the required infrastructure. You can imagine this like internet. So if I'm taking out now my phone and want to browse something in the internet, I don't have to worry about any standard that is behind it, any router or nodes that are in the network that enable the internet, name servers, and you name it. But these infrastructures are created currently by companies. Here we have the example of Fireware, who provide a certain stack of infrastructure. I mentioned Catena-X as infrastructure that went live yesterday, and there are more out there. So as someone with an interest in only the business layer, in improving my daily business, ideally, I don't have to care about this, what I'm now talking about. You know, maybe I don't have to know about data spaces. I just want to make use of the benefits that come with it, especially trust, data sovereignty, and these values that come with data spaces. And now what Gaia-X and also IDSA stand for, the lower level here we talk about standardization. At the core and at our heart, we are a community of companies that create standards. Yeah, paperwork. We do these box drawings and architectural drawings. We describe how things should look like in real life, and yeah, have a very good. Next slide, please. Have a very good relation to the participants in all the different layers. So none of these layers can exist on its own. And also we as IDSA rely on vivid communities, which is also, by the way, why I'm so thankful that we now will have a hub here in Slovakia. Yeah. For you, over a coffee or just a talk, I think it will be very interesting also for me to get in contact with you to know where do you see yourself? Yeah, is it that you're interested in standardization? Maybe you're already active in some standardization activities. Maybe you want to join these activities that are also represented now here in Slovakia by our hub. But maybe your interest is also on one of the other layers. You know? So maybe we should look at the radar and see if examples exist. Maybe we should talk to national government to see if there's funding available for the creation of data space stack infrastructure. Finding your role in this is, I think, one of the first points, in case you're in contact with Martina and the others, to help you to find your specific way. Next slide, please. In case you're interested, this slide provides an overview over maybe also all the aspects that I now mentioned in the 3-stack layer, starting with let's create the standard, let's understand the standard. In case this is your thing, these are the 3 core documents and sources that we as IDSA create with our community, talking about the reference architecture itself, which is very technical, talking about the rule book, which goes a bit away from the technical aspects, more towards the governance aspects and the law aspects, the legal aspects of data spaces, all the way up to the GitHub repositories, where you find all these 2 documents, but also many, many other sources, example code from partners of our network, and so on and so forth. And on the user side, there's 5 steps. Next slide, please. The user side of this story, we tried to create an easy 5-step program also to help you to see where do I stand in this process of creating data spaces or solutions for it, starting from step 1, understanding and reading the right documents, all the way up to let's share data in the Vivid ecosystem. We brought together relevant information for you to find your way. And our hub, our role here is also to guide you partly through this process, to inspire you, to point you to the right sources and to the right people to create a vivid community. Next slide, please. This is just to show you because I talked about community, and actually none of what I showed you is something where I or we as IDSA can take credits. It's all our members that create the standard. It's all our members who create solutions. And this is, in the meantime, a community of more than 150 companies from different sizes. So I'm really talking about startups and SMEs. And I'm also talking about international companies, small and large, that go beyond Europe. This is really a global endeavor. This is something that we only can solve on a global level, because also supply chains, as the example showed earlier, is something that is not only happening in one country or only in Europe. It's something that happens globally. So we also need global solutions here. Next slide, please. Yeah, and with this, I also would like to end this short presentation. I also will be later part of our discussions and will be available for you. I just think inspiring here all of you to start this journey is something I don't even have to do, because you're obviously here, and I'm looking forward to the discussions that we will have throughout the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christoph. I think we will have the questions after, so it will be great. So now it will be nice to have Thomas from Fraunhofer, who is online. So hello, Thomas.
Oh, hello. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, everything okay?
Okay, fine. So yeah, I would give you some insights into what the Fraunhofer Society has to do with the International Data Space Association and also with data space initiatives. So my name is Thomas Uslander. I'm head of a department entitled Information Management and Production Control at Fraunhofer IOSB in Karlsruhe in southwest of Germany. And I would like to tell you a little bit about one specific application domain of data spaces, which are industrial data spaces. So in order to do that, I've prepared a short presentation, and I would like to ask the organizers to activate the permission that I can really show my slides. At the moment it's still deactivated. Okay, so now that looks better. Okay, so I have prepared this presentation together with my colleague, Dr. Liliana Stojanovic. She is head of a research group in my department entitled Smart Factory Systems. And we both together, we are co-chairs of an IDS community, such as we call it, a vertical community, IDS Industrial. So what is the motivation to have such a vertical community? You may heard of Industry 4.0 in Germany, this big initiative that started already 12 years ago with the vision to have networked production, networked industrial production, that is production across enterprises based upon standards. The platform Industry 4.0 has created some standards, for example, this asset administration shell concept of specifying metadata for industrial assets. But we are going further. The platform Industry 4.0 also has taken on board not only interoperability issues, but also sustainability issues. How can you calculate a footprint, the CO2 footprint across the whole value chains, but also the autonomy aspect. How can you really stay autonomous in your decisions, even if you share data? And this has to do with data sovereignty. And here you see already that there is a close overlap with the ideas and the motivation of the International Data Spaces Association. And that's the motivation to bring these two big initiatives together. When you look at cybersecurity issues in the platform Industry 4.0, the focus is on secure communication and access control to assets and asset information. However, once you have got access to data, the data is a way you have no control anymore if you do not do anything. And that's the focus of the IDS. And that is why this is really complementary. Security focus in IDS is on data usage control and provenance tracking. That is, where does the data come from? And of course, control may not only be seen on a technical level, what can you really enforce, but also on a legal level, because only with both approaches together, you can really ensure your data sovereignty. So there are reference architecture models in both initiatives, and it's of course necessary that they in some way fit together. However, they have their own life cycle and their own motivation, so they can just coexist. There will not be one unified reference architecture model for Industry 4.0 and IDS. However, when you look at the specifications for interactions for data models, there should at least be compatibility. And when you look at software solutions, that the joint ambition is to have one unified interoperable solution between Industry 4.0 and IDS. And that's the motivation to create such a vertical community that we called IDS Industrial. And this should, of course, be based on the Gaia-X principles of self-description, but also nowadays be in line and compatible with the data space initiatives such as Catena-X and now also Manufacturing-X. So the mission of this IDS industrial community is to enable the designer, the setup, and the operation of IDS tailored to the needs of the application domain of industrial production and smart manufacturing. The idea is to bridge the gap between the initiatives IDSA, Platform Industry 4.0, and Gaia-X and Manufacturing-S. IDS Industrial has been established in May 2020, and there are 3 co-chairs, as I mentioned already, my colleague Liliana, myself, and we have an industrial co-chair who is Andreas Teuscher, who is very active in IDSA 2 from the SIG AG. There are now 86 members, mainly from Europe, but also from Asia, from Japan, from Korea, who are thinking about how to bring these initiatives together. And we have quarterly meetings or on-demand meetings. In order to do that, not only on a theoretical basis, there are 3 reference use cases that we have analyzed in depth. First one is collaborative condition monitoring, CCM, which is about the collection and use of data to optimize the reliability and the service life of industrial assets. And if you look, for example, at a machine has components inside, and the machine is part of an industrial plant. All the vendors of the components, the machines and the plants, they want to have, for example, services such as preventive maintenance. Now, how can you coordinate the collective use of data in order to do that efficiently and not just by bilateral communications and architectures? Smart Factory Web is a system of my department of front of IRSB. It's a blueprint architecture for sustainable and resilient production ecosystems, an open marketplace to bring together the demand and the offerings of production capability. Very interesting for the data economy to have here an open approach to enable manufacturing as a service. We are doing this also in Catena-X and in Manufacturing as X based on this architecture. So if you are interested in that, that's the way forward, not just to link factories directly together, but to enable virtual manufacturing, to have manufacturing as a service, and this in line with sustainability and resilience issues. And other use cases may also be taken on board in this IDS industrial community. There are already 2 major results. We have issued 2 position papers, one about the topic of data sovereignty in general as a critical success factor for the manufacturing industry, and the second one published in May 2020. It's about the analysis of manufacturing use cases and to analyze in depth what does it mean, this term data sovereignty, this term data usage control, because there are various sub-aspects. And as part of manufacturing use cases, we analyze the importance, for example, of how important is it to get a logging of data usage? How important is it to restrict the use of data depending on the geospatial domain where you are or on the time? Things like that we have analyzed, and you can see here the results in these diagrams. And now we have a third precision paper, which is work under progress, which is entitled Bridging the Gap between IDS and Industry 4.0, the lessons learned, if you look at the technological level, and the recommendations for the future. And this is also not just a conceptual work, but also we want to have a demonstrator, a joint demonstrator that shows the synergy between relevance concepts from different initiatives. And here you may participate if you're working in Industry 4.0 ideas and concepts, and also in data spaces. Please contact us, and then we can think about how you bring your ideas and your demonstrators, your technologies together with this joint demonstrator in IDS Industrial. The final aim is to have a minimal viable data space by end of next year that is compatible with Catena X and Manufacturing X solutions. And in order to do that, we have to bring together existing technologies that we see here on this slide. For example, implementations of the asset administration shell, but also integration of other standards such as OPC-UA as an IEEE IEC standard that is very, very important in shop floors. So what is the position and the idea of the asset administration shell, of a meta model of these assets, and how can you bring all that together, also together with this Eclipse Data Space Connector, EDC. We as IOSB, we have an open source solution for digital twins, which we call FAST, the Fraunhofer Advanced AES Tools for Digital Twins. And you may download this open source implementation of the AES and implement your own FAST service based upon Java with a strong support for OPC-UA. So we also look at the asset connection of the asset administration shell to the asset, and the North Pole interface, the upper interface, is of course compliant to the latest AES specifications. So you get these slides and you can download this open source implementation and then also participate to this joint demonstrator. And with that, I would like to finish my presentation. You may, of course, directly contact me or also directly my colleague, Dr. Liliana Stojanovic. She will then bring you together with the other members of the IDS industrial community. And here you're really building the industrial production data space of the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you very much for your presentation. So we spoke a lot about the money needed for all these data spaces that we want to create. So it is really nice that I can welcome Lubica Šebeňová from EIT Manufacturing, and she will explain us or present us EIT Manufacturing, EIT M Slovakia X Fund.
Thanks very much, Martina. I'm very pleased to be here today. So in the next couple of minutes, I would like to talk very briefly about EIT Manufacturing and also about our activities in Slovakia. I don't know a lot about data spaces, but we have it covered because my colleague Wolfgang will talk a bit about our work in that area later on. So EIT Manufacturing is the largest innovation network for manufacturing in Europe. We are one of the knowledge and innovation communities established in 2020 and supported by the European Institute for Innovation and Technology that is based in Budapest. EIT, or this institute, falls under the third pillar of the Horizon Europe program, that is the EU program for research and innovation. Next slide, please. So to make sure that innovation reaches the market, the entrepreneurs can thrive, and the industry has the talent it needs, We connect innovation, education, and business creation pillars, as well as regional innovation scheme. The regional innovation scheme was established in 2014, and its role is to advance innovation performance of countries that are moderate or modest innovators according to the European Innovation Scoreboard, including Slovakia. So we are a truly European organization and network because also of our offices throughout Europe. Our headquarters is in Paris, and we have 5 so-called co-location centers in Germany, Austria, Spain, Italy, and Greece. In addition to that, we also have so-called RIS hubs that are organizations that support and promote our activities that are specific for the countries that belong under this regional innovation scheme. In addition to well-established offices, we also have strong interdisciplinary network of more than 100 partners from 20 countries. And we believe that this network is our strongest asset, and it helps us facilitate connections to international companies, startups, well-established research, and academic institutions. In addition, we also try to support countries in areas where they identified specific needs. And our flagship project is called Mitiket. It's an Austrian project with the main goal to connect and bring the Austrian manufacturing industry closer to the European ecosystem. This project is funded by 50% by 2 Austrian ministries, the Ministry of Economy and Ministry of Environment, and the remaining 50% is provided by EIT Manufacturing. This project has 7 types of activities, including innovation transfer, networking events, coaching and consulting services, and also helping to connect various learning factories and other infrastructure. And I'm very pleased to announce that as starting in January, we will have a similar project also in Slovakia. And I would like to thank very much to the State Secretary and also to Martina for their support in making that happen. So in September, we finalized a contract with the Ministry of Investment, Regional Development and Informatization to establish the EITM Slovakia X Fund. So the main objective of this collaboration is to advance the digital transformation processes within Slovakia, which is fully in line with Slovakia's key strategic governmental documents. So this project, all the pilot activities of this project will run from January 2024 to September 2025. And again, similar to Mitiket, this project is funded 50% by EIT Manufacturing and 50% by the Slovak government. The main objective of the fund is to channel resources to 7 activities aimed at enhancing digital transformation of the country. And this includes, for example, the startup-centric competition that we called Industry App. Then sharing best practice from Austria and in their digital transformation processes. Bringing European technology to Slovakia and vice versa. And also supporting and facilitating collaboration between Slovak and foreign researchers and civil servants. Next slide. And in addition to that, as already mentioned by the State Secretary, we also participate and can collaborate with Slovak SMEs also through the innovation voucher scheme. And we can provide several services under this scheme that will bring European technology to Slovakia by offering, for example, our expertise in scouting and implementing innovative solutions, and also vice versa, bringing Slovak innovations to Europe by consulting services, identifying the needs of companies, and supporting them in accessing the European market. I think that's all from me, and I look forward to the further discussions throughout the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lubica. We had a lot of presentations, so now discussion will start. So please, Ivanka from SCDI, Christoph, my second moderator, yeah, from IDSA, Alexander Matušek from Slovak Association of Automotive Companies, Mr. Peter Cohen from Microsoft, and Mr. Roland Sommer from Gaia X Austria, and also Frederick Tank from Gaia X. Please, you can come. Don't hesitate to ask really the questions, because I think the presentations was quite interesting, but technical. And now we are very happy that we can speak a little bit about the business and about the companies. Do you have enough place? Everything is okay.
Perfect.
Okay, great. I'm happy that Ivanka is in the middle. It was exactly the... So we can start with you. You represent today Slovak Center of Digital Innovation. We listen a lot about the data spaces. Everybody's asking me the data, it is about IT, but we see that it is, for example, about manufacturing, that it is the aim to have a manufacturing more competitive, more productive. So what do you think? How is it in Slovakia, and how we can help to be quicker?
Let me give you another microphone here. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yes, thank you. So on behalf of SCDI, I have to admit that we are on the beginning of the long way to data transformation, because data transformation requires also digitalizations, and we are not in a very good shape to make digitalizations in our SMEs, especially in manufacturing. There are many manual work, and without digitalization, we cannot gather the data. So the first thing we have to support, and what we are going to do in our Slovak Center for Digital Innovations, we are going to support digitalization of SMEs. And then the next step will be data. We can gather data, we can care about those data with secure and ethical use. So I think it's enough for the beginning.
Yeah. How we explain it, we saw it on all the presentation. There is a lot of initiatives in Europe, but they cooperate together. So Gaia X, what is importance? How is important this cooperation between another association and Gaia X?
Well, as we also heard through the introductory presentations and so on, that the data space ecosystems are global. They are not stopping at national borders. And Gaia X is only one of a lot of initiatives, and it's very important to cooperate very closely. 2 years ago, the Data Space Business Alliance was founded as umbrella above IDSA, Gaia X, FIWARE, and BDBA to enable this close cooperation. There were great steps and great progress reached. but we also have to admit that we are not perfect yet. There are several overlaps on the one side, and there are definitely still gaps on the other side. But as digitalization, digital transformation, and also data space or the creation of federated data ecosystems cannot be done from one day to the other. We have to evolve and take one step after the other. And I think we are on a good way, and we are really building a good base for Europe's industries.
Thank you for this, because exactly we speak a lot about the European initiative, European sovereignty, European competitiveness. So Microsoft, why better?
Yeah, I know that's the question that's being always asked. This is such an effort that looks on the surface like it's against non-European companies, but it's absolutely not, because when we look at what is the core of our business, it's helping our customers and partners to make sense of their data, to manage their data. And data doesn't have a value by itself. Data only generates value when it can move, when it can interact with other data, when it multiplies insights through interaction with other data. And so wherever we can help to get data moving is the right thing to do for a company like Microsoft, because data that is not moving is not creating a data economy, it's not creating a data market. Only if there is a data market of data moving, then we can sell software, build modern tools, build AI tools, and to give our customers the necessary trust in how they move their data is an absolute baseline for building modern tools, for building artificial intelligence, that your data is going to be used correctly the way you intended to. Then how can we build a trustworthy AI on top of that? That's the absolute baseline. And with that, we are very happy to support those initiatives.
Thank you very much. Alex, it is the question for you that we spoke a lot about industry, about manufacturing. You represent a very important association in Slovakia because we are an automotive country. So what is your opinion? Why it's important that Slovakia is on board?
Auto industry is global, but it was very interesting what was presented. But for us, the main question: which data, who should and can manage? That is a problem, because some data is maybe intellectual property of some OEMs. Then are data which are secret, and there are data which are then free, and we have to cluster which data should be used and how we can manage this data. I see it in triangle. For me, it is first is the customer is on the first place, and we will do everything to do for a customer the best things. The second one, in my point of view, are the service providers, which can manage the data which customer allowed to give them. And the third one is in the manufacturers, where we don't want to share all of the data and development and so on, and innovation with maybe parties which are not in. And it is clear, no, it is not clear yet how this data should be managed. If we see the Data Act law, which we have in Brussels last month, discussion is even not finished. And at the end, it's also a question of price, because, for example, we are now speaking a lot about a Euro 7 norm, which is for automotive industry, and so-called onboard monitoring, which someone would like to have all the data online from every sensor. There are thousands of sensors in a car, cost a lot of money. For sure, the car is not a phone, and it's not a PC. It's phone and PC on wheels, and that makes this kind of computer, very dangerous. We will not share derived and interfere data from the car usage, because it's at the end trade secret or trade secrets, and we in competition with other manufacturers. It's very nice the ways how to manage the data, but we have first to know which data in which kind we will share. For sure, we are free, and most of German OEMs are in this mobile data space inside, where we are sharing on the voluntary basis data about where to charge the car, the prices, and where is the free park space, and traffic jam, and even weather forecast to be prepared to help at the end the driver, customer, in most of the cases, to travel safe and fast and cheap.
Thank you, Alex. Roland,
I have a good news for you. It's up to you to decide with whom you share what kind of data. So if you share data, let's say with Martina, and then you can say, I share this set of data for the next 2 weeks, and it's only Martina who will use it. And after 2 weeks' time, she has to delete it, and she has to give you the proof that she has deleted the data. And that is all the data sets you have. So it's up to you, and it still remains your data. That's the sovereignty part of the whole equation. And so you have to take, or the companies in your cluster, they have to think about what kind of data should I share. And in many cases, it might not be the core process data that you share, but maybe some logistics data because you have some improvements, etc. And that's this federated framework that is so helpful, because that gives each of us the possibility to decide what to do with my own data.
No, it's great.
Coming from my 3-layer stack that I showed earlier in my presentation, this is maybe also the discussion on, I'm coming from the base layer, talking about standardization, and you say, but the actual work just starts right now. And I just can't agree to this. So the feeling for us as association caring about a standard, being at a point where the infrastructure is provided by Eclipse data space, components as one project. I showed Fireware and many others out there providing this infrastructure. The actual work just starts right now. So your question here, how can I manage the data? What are good rules maybe also? Whom are the partners that I want to show the data to, and who should have restricted access, if at all access? That's I don't even think it's bad news. It's just the starting point for this new way of thinking about data and the way forward for this.
Exactly. I think this is why we, and thanks also to our State Secretary and Minister of Economy, the support that we brings these initiatives in Slovakia to try to think about and what we can do with the data and data sharing and data exchange. And how data could help me to, for example, decrease CO2 footprint or increase some business revenue or something. But I think what is really important is that we have to establish the trust, that we believe that Microsoft will use my data as, or will make the data sharing as, I believe, in a sovereign way. So why trust is important?
Well, I think Alexander gave a good example why trust is important and a very practical example, because we are not only talking about the sharing of unspecific data, we're exactly talking of sharing very specific data, and without sharing data or processing data, data has no value at all. And for being comfortable and secure for corporates and also small and medium-sized companies, but also for individuals, it is very important to have trust, to have sovereignty on sharing data, especially when it's not, let's say, public available data, but maybe personal data or specific data representing IP rights or maybe company secrets and knowledge. And therefore, it is very important, as Roland mentioned, that you really are able to manage the rights of the recipients, how to use the data, for what time to use the data, where to use the data, and for what reason or for what cause to use the data. And this is what we are trying to enable with this federated data ecosystems, to really be able to manage your data and the accessibility rights and usage rights of your data.
So I would like to jump in here with one thing, because trust existed before in business relationships. I could visit you in your office. We would have agreed to share some data. It would have taken us maybe 3-4 meetings, couple of glasses of wine and the coffee, and eventually we would have shared data. But now with the economy that we are in, we will have to have hundreds and thousands of data share connections per company. If I look just at the 3 big German car makers, then their ecosystem consists of about 500,000 companies that work with all of them. There will be data that is super sensitive, because you could know what your competitor is building if you just see let's say, the CO2 footprint that a specific factory has. So first of all, it's millions of data connections that need to be managed, and it's very sensitive data. So we need to come to a system that helps me building that trust in an automated way. I cannot go and have a coffee and a bottle of wine and a dinner for every single data connection that we need to establish.
Unfortunately not.
Yeah, I would love to, but so we need to have something where we make the same step that we did from having paper mail to emails to chatting. We need to for negotiating trust. And I think the great thing about Gaia-X and IDSA is that together they're building a system that will allow machine to negotiate trust, and therefore enable us to more granularly control that trust, where I say this type of data is fine for your supply chain reporting for sustainable energy, but it's not fine to be used in, let's say, the procurement process, because there you could use it against me by negotiating the price for something. And that will be only possible if the system is as standardized as the internet is standardized today. Everybody has a browser, everybody has a web server, but also everybody has a different business model in the web. And that's the beauty of Gaia-X and IDSA, that their models enable every company to decide what are their attributes they require for trust, what is their business model on top of it, but it delivers a standardized way of negotiating the trust and understanding the intentions of the other party.
I would like to comment a little bit. We are talking about standardizations and technology solutions for trust and the security of data. But what we also need is a legacy environment. What we really miss here in Slovakia, we do not have adopted any law connecting to data, but GDPR, yes, of course, it works. And without this law, we cannot be able to request or to support using these measures on everything what we need for companies. Some companies are really forced to share data because of security and safety of state or energy environment. So they really need a law how to support this sharing data.
We know that, thank you, we know that, for example, European Commission, as Alex mentioned, prepare a lot of huge legislation for data sharing. So maybe if you can explain, Alex, how you wait that this implementation will come, and what we can do that the implementation of this huge legislation which come from Europe will be successful in Slovakia.
So I completely understood. I can share what I want to share, but not in all cases, because there is a law what someone is asking to send somewhere for control reasons, and I don't know what. And there is not completely clear, because I told you the car will be more and more computer on wheels, and is driving fast. So not everybody will share the information, and producer, there is no way for some data. But on the other hand, I told we are very open to cooperate with service providers because the customers at the end has a usage and has a profit from this situation. And we see first came Data Act, which could just secure all the data which was given somewhere. And now we are going to the in-vehicle data. It will be not that easy. And there are many other things which should be managed because a lot of, I will say, politicians mean we have to control everything, and the electrical car is more software than hardware, and it is not coming. Maybe I will explain in different way. Some years ago, 5-7 years ago, the big OEMs, they try or they were thinking, okay, we have big IT companies like Google, Apple, Microsoft, and so on. They can make for us an operating system. And no one of them went to Google, Apple, and Microsoft because there are competitors in that case. And every big OEM created their own company to make the software, to own the data. My decision is to own the data because I see in the future some business model, I will not share this data because it's my property, it's my development. And now we are speaking about what we have to share, and I agree with you. I decide what I will to share. Maybe it was your question or your comment, but there are many things which politics means I need the data. So we are forced to share, and we will not share because it's our advantage, sometimes disadvantage against the other manufacturers. And this is a complex of things, but the statement is very, very, very easy. For customers, we do everything what customers want. For the service provider, is the free area to offer a service, to create a service. We completely support the mobility data spaces and European mobility data spaces, and some more which are on the way. In this case, there is no doubt we will support, and we are active member, and we are sending data which are necessary if the partner is authorized on the other side. Not to everybody, but the partner should be authorized. But to come back to Slovakia, we have no OEM development here, department. We are just producing the cars, but we have some suppliers which are producing parts which also are creating data. They are now for free, maybe later on not anymore. But at the end, the OEM and the customer has to decide what will be shared and what will be not shared. And I mean, in the case of trade secret on security of the drive, there will be hard 5 in the future. But on the other hand, is also, as I told, as I mentioned, the question of how much we will pay for this. If we have to collect all the data and send all the data from, because it's obligatory to send this data. Every customer will sell the price for that. If we ask for something like this, we have to pay for this. Very clear. There's millions of data.
I would go on a completely different level. Sorry about that. Who in the audience ever came across the term Industry 4.0? Most of you. The other day I heard that now we have half-time of Industry 4.0. The first half-time is since 2013, where the term was firstly used by Chancellor Merkel. And in the first 10 years, the focus was on optimizing the production line of one company or one production line. And now we see, and that is a fundamental shift, that we go to ecosystems. And one of the reasons why we go to ecosystems is that is there's the best potential for remaining competitive on the global market. We have, if you work for a manufacturing company, you know, getting 2 or 3% with a lot of effort, and suddenly and also across data exchange, suddenly we can reach efficiency gains of 20, 30, 40 and more %. We see that. And so this is the fundamental shift. And now with Gaia-X, we get the tools that we start learning on sharing data across the supply chains, and is of course also on doing the regulations right, and we all struggle for that. But these companies that do it smartly, they will also develop their business models. They will have more income and different income, maybe from selling data in whatever way that will be done. And this is something, the companies that start understanding what is different when I start sharing data, and that might also be within a concern that I start data with a different production facility within one company, for instance, they will be better prepared than all the others. And those companies that start thinking about how can I set up a structure that enables me to do the data sharing, I'm sure that they will have this competitive edge.
You are right, Rolando. I have to say that we know each other, so
I agree completely with you. There is not the problem how to do that, but the regulations. Where the Europe is the world champion in making regulations, and world champions also not to make any support. You are right. We are speaking about production and sharing data production and processes. It's no problem. On the other hand, if we see how much security systems are behind every step in IT, and maybe you can remember 2 weeks ago, that was a one day break. 1 day break, everything is falling down. All the efforts is away.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to come back to the point just discussed before. I also think it's not the question how much you pay or how much you have to invest. The question is how much can you earn, how much can you win with doing the right things and using data the right way. The other idea or question I wanted to raise is, I mean, if I own a car, the data the car produces actually belongs to me because I own the car. It's not the data of the data producer, of the car maker. Maybe today it is because there is no clear regulation, I think, and I think we need for such specific and topics, we need clear regulations and laws, but not this, we just discussed it in advance. I think at the moment we have around 60 or 70 regulations of the EU and the commissions concerning data sharing, data economy, data security, whatever. And there are more than 50 regulations in a work in progress or under discussion at the moment, again, for each single industry, for each single use case, whatever. So this is really hindering the digital ecosystems we are talking about. We are, as you said, we are world champions in regulations, but we are maybe not regulating or deciding the really main questions and main points to enable these digital ecosystems we need to take advantage.
So maybe one statement to the championship of regulation. Regulation always comes at a cost, and we see regulations that are hitting the manufacturing market a lot. You can have a look at Germany at the Supply Chain Act, where data needs to be delivered starting next January. We already can see on the horizon regulations about delivering product carbon footprint data. And those regulations very often have a very good goal in mind, but they are ignoring that there could be side effects. Because when I start sharing very detailed product carbon footprint data, I will inadvertently share secrets about the financial situation of the company. Where do they do sourcing? How do they do sourcing? I will give my competitors tools to underbid me. I will give my buyers tools to negotiate a price, and I will give Wall Street tools to find a better price for my stock. Some of that is maybe intentional, some not. But the reason why I think we will start moving to data spaces very quickly and a lot is because it's currently the only tool that we have to regulate data use, to enable a data holder or data producer to say, you know what, it's okay if you use this data in your carbon reporting. It's not okay to use this data in your treasury department. And it is not okay to merge this data together with your research data. Or in the example of an AI tooling, if I want to share data in a way where I say, you know what, it's okay if this data is being used to create a prompt for the AI engine, but not if it is in a healthcare scenario. Well, the tools for that are in data spaces. I can produce usage policies on the data, and I can say, hey, this is absolutely fine if you use this data for a question about how to maintain the car. It is not okay to use the data to ask a question about the healthcare status of the driver. And the only system we have right now that will enable those scenarios is basically the system of data spaces. And so when you think through that as not just where do I find the next opportunity to build an AI application on my phone, but rather what huge amount of cost is coming towards us to fulfill regulation, then data spaces will be the one tool that will make that manageable.
Before I give you the micro, so if you have the questions, please don't hesitate to ask the questions.
We also have a microphone that you can use.
We'll share one.
We share one, yeah. Yeah, so I mean, the point at which the discussion is I think a good one to also ask. I don't know, Roland, maybe you want to, after serving the water to us, have an approach also on that. Concrete use cases. So in my presentation, I said use cases are not ideal because the chance that this use case that I talk about now is not ideal to get you on board. But from the perspective of the Gaia Hub Austria, what would be maybe one of your favorite use cases that also, yeah, basically shows an example of what Peter now explained. So like usage control and what are the rules and who can make use of it. Do you already have lively use cases, or at least good ones that you can explain to us in your hub work?
Yes, we have. One is we have something equivalent to the High Tatra, and that is the Alps. And there's a use case in a small village in the Alps where a couple of hotels provide the number of how many guests they have. They would not share it among themselves, but they share it with the energy provider in Austria. And the energy provider calculates how much pallets he would then need and when to bring the pallets up, because if there's snow, the truck cannot go up. And everyone has an advantage on that, all the hotels, because they have reduced energy costs. So this would be in the tourism area, a use case we see. There are a couple of use cases in Eupro-Gigant. And one is on calculating the CO2 footprint in the production. And the question is, should I use this type of production method, another one, and I would need to know what is the lot size, what is the offer, how long, how much, etc. And different types of, for instance, materials. It could be different types of plastics that could be used. Some are cheaper, some are more expensive. And there they would calculate how many offers I have, how much is the size of each of these offers, and then calculate what would be the most energy efficient production line. So these would be two very concrete use cases. I mean, all of these use cases currently are in the pilot phase, so there was not yet a rollout. But we are very optimistic that some of these elements, at least, would also be used on a broader level.
What I like about these two examples is that it's not indirectly, maybe it is production related, but like tourism as one of the main anchor points and the core topics here is very interesting, because I mean, when you ask me personally, what are the domains that I'm interested in most, I would say mobility tourism, because it affects me as a citizen, also as a person. Yeah? That's also something very interesting, because it opens ideas and solutions to a broad community out there. Maybe I don't know who would like to take the question. Do we have, so tourism, or you want to react to this? Yeah.
Well, since you're asking for non-manufacturing use cases, there's a very nice use case in financial services, because there's a lot of regulation around payment and payment services. And one is anti-money laundering. And for anti-money laundering, I need to have data from competing banks to understand what the path and the graph was, how money traveled through the system. The problem with that is, if I have all the payment data about one person from another bank, I can build a marketing and consumption profile of that person and know how to target that person to maybe get them to switch over to my bank, or know whether they have financial problems and maybe I can lure them in with a loan offer or something. So on the one side, I have regulation that says I need to build software that will work against money laundering. On the other hand, exactly that software is opening up my entire customer base to potentially being poached. So sharing that data requires extreme controls and a lot of issues on trust. And that is one of the use cases. I cannot imagine how to solve that without either a lot of complicated setting up of data intermediaries and data escrows and certifications, or just saying, hey, I have a system where I can actually negotiate what you're allowed to do with the data that I share with you.
Along the line, what Peter has said, there is soon there will start a so-called media data space, and there it's about tracking fake news, fake videos, and fake photos. So it's the same logic that all the media, newspapers, etc., would use the same sources maybe, and they are competing to each other. But in that case, it's good if they work together, sharing some deep data about, or metadata about fake news, fake videos, fake photos.
Example, what was also surprising me when I was last week in Berlin for the presentation of EU Pro Gigant. For example, they speak exactly about the battery, about the recycling the battery, that they need to know also the whole life cycle. Have you used the battery to reach really the recyclation at a good level? So I think that, and I believe that exactly this data sharing and data hub, Christoph or Peter, you mentioned, it is something what we have, not what we have. So we can use it in the good way. So it could really take us a lot of positive things also in other questions.
Right. Well, there's a regulation that by 2026, batteries and these battery passport, and there it does not only include the production of the battery, but also the use of the battery. And when you look at this all these circular concepts, it's about extending the lifespan of a product. And that's why it's extremely important and interesting to see what the battery people do, because they are a battery can last for maybe 3 years or 30 years, depending on how you use it. And this can be then translated to other sectors as well. We have an example of an Austrian company that produces cranes, these big cranes. So these customers that use the crane really nicely, the crane would last up to 30 years. Those who would not do that would last up to 3 years. And there you see the potential of sharing data. And they are now the artists to come up with sensors that would try to track how you use a certain and a given product. And we all very much are curious to learn how the battery people will solve this problem in figuring out what is the lifetime of a product. And it's not just about the sensors, but where to save it, how to regularly update the information, etc.
I'd like to also ask, so we spoke about a lot of use cases, and have I seen in our network, when we have a data, we can share it. We have a lot of good ideas, and we can do this in the good way. But for example, what I see, it is exactly as Catena-X, Manufacturing X, EuPro-Gigant, EONA-X, so a lot of abbreviations.
A lot of X.
A lot of X. So me, I understand quite well because I am inside, but how the companies and how, for example, SMEs could understand what's happened today and what is behind the door. So if you can advise, Christoph.
What is behind the door? So maybe, this is also a good topic to see what is maybe one of the next steps here for the people who joined us today here. Yeah. I think the first step that you will encounter when you open the door is to first look into the use case that you encounter behind one of the axes or projects. Usually, this is something that we observe. The projects that are out there currently have a domain focus. If you ask me from the technical perspective, this is not because it's necessary. Looking into health and also energy and tourism, the stack that enables use cases is usually the same. There is a certain point where it tips, where it gets domain specific, like when you talk about semantics and ontologies, but there's a lot that is in common. Yeah. So the projects that build data spaces at this point in time also could start without a domain focus, but I think it makes it easier to be in your community, have the same lingo, and like you don't have to agree first on a lot of terms that people from the same domain have in common. But first looking at these use cases, domain specific, and then step by step getting into I would say even using. It's not about building. I was thinking building the infrastructure, but we are at a tipping point also here where we have solutions out there that are easy to use, almost out of the box, I would say. So easy to deploy, so you don't have to worry about the complex infrastructure and can start thinking about domain specific languages, the concrete use case, how is it implemented with a legacy also. That was a word that I really liked a lot. So we're not here to wipe away existing IT infrastructures and build everything from scratch. We have to build connectors in our case as IDSA and protocols into existing infrastructures. And this requires a lot of dedication and knowledge also how to do that. Knowledge about my legacy, but also I have to be educated in the new terms and conditions for the infrastructure here. I saw Roland and also Alex wanting to react to this. Yeah,
I agree with everything what you told, but one example, because we are speaking about this SMEs needs help and has to do. Do they know that they have to change something, the SMEs? If we are in Slovakia, the state is not digitalized or very costly and very, very less. I will make one example from our industry. Every year conferences, and we are speaking 3 years ago, we started to speak. You have to produce or parts climate neutral. No one's believed. No one's changed. Once I told them, okay, if you don't start to have measurement, how climate, what is your footprint in your production, you will be out in the next few years. Because till now it was a question of quality and price. Now it is also climate neutrality in the production. No one's believed. And my question is now, is this experience, which I saw, because I can split the companies in Slovakia in 2 ways. There are companies owned by foreign capital, which are on the way. And the second ones are the local. They see state is doing nothing. Why I should be digital if I have to send it to the state in the paper? Till now, why I should be digital if every report I have to send in paper? my question is if they may know if they are not changing the climate neutrality, digital way, they are lost in the future because they are not fast enough. And this is the main question. If they know, if the customer in the future data sharer knows what they have to do.
Well, we can observe, and there are two concrete examples. The one is Airbus and the other one is BMW. They say in their compliance for customers, for suppliers, you have to be compatible with Gaia X. So it starts already with these OEMs and they demand it along the value chain. Now the question is, how do you incentivize small and medium enterprises to get some training, to test it out, etc. And I think there is a format on the European level called European Digital Innovation Hubs, where you can support small and medium enterprises, and in our case, even up to mid-caps, where you get free support to set up something like a data space, or of at least, for instance, to clean your data, etc. And that could be one step of supporting small and medium enterprises with a low barrier. And that is very important. It's an extremely important topic. And the challenge we have, we came together by train this morning, is we have to speed up the diffusion rate of new technologies considerably, given all the regulations that come up and that lure on the horizon in 2028 or 2030, etc. And one of these tools that I believe is really good is the European Digital Innovation Hub, particularly with this test before invest scheme.
So one thing to add to that from the perspective of a software company and service provider. Of course, you always have this distribution between the early adopters all the way back to the laggards. At some point, companies were asking, why do I need this internet thing? Then at some point, they got an email address, mycompany@cesnam.sk. And at some point, they got a website that was mycompany.sk. And they finally figured out that their business runs faster if they embrace email. And I think this very same thing will happen with data spaces. Right now, data spaces is a new technology. So a lot of the big players are investing into the open source movement, into the product building. That's why we have open source projects like the Eclipse Data Space Connector, which is not a finished product. It's like a component that then will be used by other companies to build a product. And one company might integrate it manually into their IT system because they're big and complicated. And we have partners in the ecosystem that are saying, hey, I'm building a data space connector that's targeting companies that are so small that the nephew of the owner is the IT director. And anything on the spectrum in between will develop over time. We have Cofinity X, who's building a lot of data space services for the Catena X ecosystem. And I think once we are at the point that data spaces are as easy to use as email, and it's just a question of, do you get a connector, like do you get an email client, and do I register my domain somewhere to be trusted in that ecosystem, then it will be a no-brainer also for the smaller companies to join. But that also means the big companies right now that can afford building the ecosystem, that can afford paying 2-3 employees to contribute to the open source solution, they need to step up the game because they're essentially the ones that will decide how quickly this development moves forward.
And maybe in addition to what you said, Peter, on Manufacturing X, there are now negotiations going on with the US, with Canada, with Japan, with Korea, with Australia. Why? Because we would like to have a global standard on that so that we would not change the standards along the value chain. So there's and this is really serious behind Manufacturing X, and Manufacturing X will very much rely on Catena X and the experiences made there, including also the Eclipse Data Connector and OPC and whatever, the Asset Administration Shell. And they now go for global standards. And I think that is very important also for the small and medium enterprises, because if you have, like in internet, one global standard, that really eases your life.
You can a little bit explain, Peter, about Catena X, why they use data spaces and a little bit, because I don't know if everybody in the room know.
So I will defer the question maybe to Alex or others on Catena X, because I'm not working in the individual data spaces. My role in Microsoft is to work on international standards. And so what Roland said, my job is to make sure that there is an ISO standard at some point in time, that there is a W3C protocol standard so all developers can write against the same standard, that at some point in time what is being discussed in Gaia X, in Fiverr, in iShare, in IDSA, all converges into the same harmonized European norm. Because the worst thing that could happen to us is that Catena X, Iona X, HealthLoft X, and so on, all the X's in this world built their data space. And then suddenly the European Commission asks Senelec to produce a standard, what is a data space? And not a single one of those projects turns out to be a data space, because the standard was produced not by people building data spaces, but by people imagining solutions. And so bringing this together, the projects like Catena X, Iona X, and others, and extracting from them what is it that all of them have together, so that we can get an ISO standard that is then applicable in Brazil, as well as in Japan, as well as in Europe. That is the beauty that this movement started from the very beginning with organizations like Gaia X and IDSA, and we're moving forward very quickly. So if for those that don't know that yet, there is a preliminary work item in the ISO committee for a data space standard. What are the characteristics of data spaces, so that the entire world can agree what is a data space and what not. IDSA is producing a data space protocol, which will be standardized through ISO and Eclipse Foundation eventually. And so we are getting there and hopefully building the spaces. But sorry, when it comes to Catena X, I'd rather that somebody from the automotive industry speak to that.
As I ask some manufacturers, they are always partnering Catena X, but maybe it's important to say, because the global player, for example, Volkswagen has 130 factories around the world. In every factory, you have the same production system. You know, this is something what about we are speaking. There are big systems which are running better or not so good, but they are definitely in, and we are the last ones which don't want to improve, and we have to improve, and we have to bring the innovation to be a little bit cheaper for the customers at the end. Is working on. And as I ask, and I have here some members from Germany in first row, which are working in Gaia X and Catena X. I have a question. What about Elon X?
You want to answer, Roland?
I wanted to say something about Catena X for those who haven't come across that. Catena X was created in principle by the three big German car manufacturers, plus Bosch, Siemens, Schaeffler, etc. And I would say from an observation from outside, in the very beginning, they created the silos, a BMW silo, a Volkswagen silo, and a Daimler silo. But now they really worked on that. They really developed further with lots of support, particularly from Microsoft. As a matter of fact, the Eclipse Data Connector, they now use the OPC protocol. They use the Asset Administration Shell. They use for those who have ever come across that, the Gaia X Trust Framework. And they came up with really interesting use cases. And some of these use cases you can find on the Catena X website. So this is really interesting. And only yesterday they started, and Peter mentioned the Cofinity X, and that is basically the operative arm of Catena X. So they really go to the market and provide services, and you have to pay for these services. And it's the first ever institution with Cofinity X that tries that out. So this is really interesting, and they are very much ahead, I think, and the experiences they have made in this ecosystem with, I don't know, 500, 600 companies, etc., something like that. I don't know. This is really something where other X's, factor X, X factor, can learn from. So, and they're very transparent also in look at the website and look at the use cases. This is really interesting.
Yeah, but, also to ask, I know that Catena X and also Nextera work, for example, we use one of the use cases to helping to ESG reporting. Do you know to describe a little bit this?
So I'm also not part of Catena X as a project. So IDSA is not partner of this project directly, but of course, like you said, it's an ecosystem. It's a data space that cares first about the infrastructure. So the consortium, the 3 OEMs, at one point in time, I think came together and saw they have many use cases that they actually build a solution on already, but they're not sufficient or not efficient enough. And they need something new. And this enabler for the use cases would be a data space. Therefore, they started to build a data space. They used the infrastructure ideas and architectural ideas of Gaia IDSA and brought it to life. And this is what makes it so interesting. And also for the people who look at any kind of these axes, I think it's depending on the domain that you come from, you have to choose your X. So is it automotive? Then maybe looking into Catena X, or is it health? Then a health data loft X might be more interesting. At the end, these projects have all in common that they, in a first step, want to provide this infrastructure, that they want to create this it's just there, consume it, and then let us talk about business and the use cases that can be enabled by this in the regarding domain, and also care about standardization. So manufacturing X that you mentioned, great example for the manufacturing area, aiming at global standards. Of course, for the data space standards that we all care about, but at the same time also caring about the manufacturing related standards that are maybe not so interesting for other domains, but still very important. So on global scale, this is super important. Yeah.
But do you have questions?
Also, regarding the question that was asked before, what's behind the door? And maybe I want to draw another picture. It's not only one door, it's a lot of doors, and that's actually good because we need a lot of doors, we need a lot of providers, we need a lot of data spaces, we need a lot of places where the data exists and is shared, and there is not just one door, and there is definitely not one back door. So this is one of the essential parts of this federated ecosystems on the one hand, concerning Catena X. I think they also realized on their way that it's very important to have kind of this layered model, as Christoph described it at the beginning. We need a common base layer for architecture, tools, and rules. Then we need a layer for specific infrastructure, which is also following certain governance or association or public defined governance. And then on top, we have a business layer. And this business layer is decided by the business players themselves or the data space federators themselves. This business layer is not defined by any of the associations, nor by governments, nor anything. So business players themselves decide their own rules and decide what they want to share, how long and whatever, yeah? And what are the rules to step in and to step out. So this is, I think, very important. And especially if you think of globalization, this is so important that we have this trust layer, this infrastructure layer, and the free to decide business layer.
So maybe one thing to add is so that we don't create the wrong image here. There is not just one automotive data space. When you look at Catena X, yes, it has been started by the German OEMs and includes all their suppliers. But there is no reason why automotive suppliers in Slovakia shouldn't create their own Slovakia automotive data space and just say, hey, this is the data space specific for sharing regulatory data that we need to provide in Slovakia. And maybe in Austria, the car suppliers will do the same. And at some point, they will realize, wait a second, there's data that we need to share at a European level. So let's have a European data space. So a data space is not like a building that I need to create, I walk into and I cannot leave the building. It's more like a set of attributes and policies that I agree to adhere to. And the same way I can shop at one supermarket on Monday and the other supermarket on Wednesday, I can be in two data spaces at the same time, because essentially when I share data into a data space, that data gets adorned with various claims and rules around it, and I can have different rules for different data spaces. I will share different data with a website that provides me a video streaming service versus a website where I go to purchase my daily household goods. And the same will happen with data spaces. So keep in mind this image of the web, basically. Every data space is like a server that offers you a certain service, and you will have a business case there, you will have a business model there. That doesn't keep you from visiting other servers or for operating a server yourself and saying, you know what, there's no data space that satisfies my needs. And there's these 3 other guys and girls that need it as well. Let's start our own new data space. So we as Microsoft don't see that there's this famous 12 data spaces in the world to rule them all. There are going to be millions of data spaces, and they might be in a graph, in a network, in a hierarchy, depending on what the use case is and what kind of data needs to be shared.
I'm glad that you're saying that from Microsoft. So it's not the one solution that rules everything, but it's rather a vivid ecosystem by itself. Yeah.
Just one sentence to add, sorry. It's known not only millions of domain-specific data spaces, but it's cross-domain data spaces. So if you think of smart cities or mobility data spaces, we need to share data from electricity producers, from car manufacturers, from, I don't know, streets, houses, buildings, temperature sensors, and so on. So we are having really cross-domain data spaces with very different usage rights and data consumption rights, managed not only for a virtual data space, but from one data space to the other data space, from more or less end to end.
Okay, now it's my turn. Sorry. So I'm listening to all these nice things, and I think we are going to be lost in the world of data now. But I am sitting here as a representative of a CDI, which is focused on SMEs. And the world of SMEs is quite different. So we have our own problems, and we have to convince those small manufacturers to learn about the possibilities which can those data spaces give to them. And there are many problems because I have said we are in the beginning of this long way, except of digitalizations, which is also part of IoT, making sensors, networks, connecting data, automation of data gathering. The SMEs also rely on a huge amount of knowledge, which are not in the signals, in the numbers, which we used to say it is tacit knowledge. And this is what is very precious. They really have a big value for those companies. So my question to all of you is: do you have any standards how to deal with this tacit knowledge? Because I am at the same time as a representative of SCDI, I am from academy. And I'm working in Institute of Informatics, Slovak Academy of Sciences. So we have explored several methods how to deal with this basic knowledge. We know ontology approach, we know some other approaches, but they are not very useful for SMEs. It requires a lot of manual work to annotate data, to pre-process all data. And the most important things is in those SMEs, they do not have personal capacity to record this basic knowledge. So do you have any advice how to deal with this?
Big challenge.
You know, I've said already before that the way we imagine data spaces to be implemented is that it's going to be an ecosystem of service providers and software providers at various levels. But that only tackles the, let's say, technical if this then that layer of the data space. I think what you're mentioning is it's a whole different, much bigger layer that we have just started taking apart and looking at what needs to be done. So I like to compare this with the European interoperability framework, because they say, hey, there's this bottom layer technical interoperability, which companies like the one I work for are very much interested in. But above that, you have the semantic interoperability layer. So let's say if there is the rule that you have to delete the data after 7 days, is the rule exactly the same in the Slovak data space as in the Austrian data space? And is it the same interpretation of that in Catena X? So you need to define interoperability at the layer of the semantic model. Does the rule delete after 7 days mean the same thing everywhere in the world or not? Then you have the business process layer where you say, what does it take to join as a member of the data space? In the one data space, maybe all you need to do is fill out a form, send an email, and you're in. In the other data space, you need to prove your identity. You need to supply your business numbers for the last 3 years. You need to prove that you have a certification and so on. So that is also very difficult. And then the top layer in the European interoperability framework is legal interoperability. And now that becomes really complicated because we have two data space efforts, finally one without an X in the name. SCSN is a supply chain network in the Netherlands. And they figured out that they actually have a lot of companies that are supplying to Catena X members. So they would like to make the two data spaces interoperable. Technically, relatively easy. Both follow the IDSA standards, both use the EDC framework, done. And now the big question was, okay, we have membership contracts. Does the membership mean the same in both data spaces? Is there legal equivalency to the policies that we have on the data sharing, etc.? And those are things that companies like Microsoft and our software partner ecosystem will not be able to solve. Those are things that industry consortia needs to tackle. Those are things that will go even the way of international trade agreements. Like it will not be at the level of an individual company to resolve legal equivalency between a contract in Austria and in the US or between Slovakia and China. That will go to the highest echelons of politics to try to make that happen globally. That's why I'm saying solving this technical, how do I build a data space? That's going to be the easy part. But luckily, I don't have to work that other thing. There are gentlemen in the room that know that world much better than I do.
May I? Sorry.
Ladies first, yeah.
Ladies first, okay. Okay, we now have semantic web. So I would like to ask you, what do you think, how long will it take to build, let's say, semantic data spaces?
So, I mean, for me, semantic web and data spaces are one thing at the end. So if you label your data sets because you think you would like to show them in the semantic web context, rather openly maybe, or with limited mechanisms for access and usage control, or if you say, okay, I did all this work already now, but when my X is ready for my sector, I will bring these data readily labeled to this data space. Doesn't make any difference, I think. No, it's maybe even you could think about data spaces as a consequent evolution of semantic web. Yeah.
Concerning your question on tacit knowledge, and because it's tacit, it's impossible to put it into a data space because it's tacit. I came across a startup in Austria, and what they did is, and in that case, it was a company that built these skiing lifts. And the experienced one, he was just explaining what he would do and why he would put this thing there and this thing not there. And that was recorded. And he was explaining to a younger one or a less experienced one. And this was recorded, put in a database, and an artificial intelligence could analyze similar situations. And by that, they codified this tacit knowledge. This has nothing to do with data sharing in the first step, because it's more about trying to find a structure that people talk about and they don't even know that they know these things. That's the problem about tacit knowledge, but they had extremely good results with that.
Thank you. You remind me another interesting topic, and I don't know if I can raise it here. It's artificial intelligence and data, because they are interconnected. And how do data spaces deal with artificial generated data? Do you have any processes how to recognize what data are the real or what data are produced by or generated by AI?
I think we need to be careful that we don't overextend what the data space is. Because the data space is essentially the plumbing that makes data flow between companies with trust. It doesn't mean that the data space as a technology needs to understand what that data is. That is maybe something that is relevant in your specific data space. And within a specific data space, what we call the data space governance authority always has the possibility to say, there are special rules, there are special semantic models. If you share data that is AI generated, you have to provide a label on the data. But this is not something that from the base technology of a data space is either mandated nor somehow prohibited. It's just something we say, data space enables data to flow. Whether the data then is a picture or sensor data that is streaming or AI generated audio content or structured data from a database, that is pretty much irrelevant for the data space. You could even make the case to say, if we can share any type of data, we can also share code, which means you don't make your data travel in the data space, but you make the algorithm travel, and then have policies on how that algorithm is allowed to send back results and who pays for the execution of the algorithm and so on. So that is the fundamental beauty about this project, that it enables us with one standard, with one technology that we're building, address all the modern data sharing scenarios. That's why we're saying trusted data sharing, not data exchange. Because even if you send me your algorithm and I allow it to send you back a result, we have shared data, but my data has never left my premises.
Yeah, so there is actually not a qualifying instance for data at the moment, yeah. And on the other hand, it cannot be at all, at least not with 100% coverage. But this brings me back to the trust topic. If you join a data space, or if the common rules for the data space mean you have to identify yourself. So you have to declare, I'm a legal entity, I'm based in Slovakia, that's my registration number and so on. You have to self-declare or self-describe the data you provide. So you cannot declare, I'm providing generated data from my production machines, and then instead of sending real data, you send fake AI generated data, because you have legally signed your self-declaration. So this is a legally binding act that you send real data. If not, and then if someone realizes it, then it's a betrayal act, or how is it called? I don't know. And then it will have legal consequences.
Sure, we need a law. What do we make?
Maybe on when you buy somewhere training data, and whether that was the question you had, wasn't it? And how to comply, whether these training data for deep learning or machine learning would be adequate. And there we are on the one hand in the AI Act, and there are a lot of standardization efforts, for instance, from IEEE that go that, and they describe a process. And I've seen, sorry about that, another startup in Austria, Tributech, and they experiment with something like they would notarify a data set. So that would be a third organization that certifies this is a correct data set, and maybe this could be one way of dealing with this problem.
Yes, of course. Thank you. I know this problem from the academy environment because we are forced to publish open data, and there are several methods how to sign data and how to make it authorized. And there are methods which is called non-repudiation methodology, which you cannot refuse that you are the author of those data. So thank you.
Do you have a question? I'd like to ask Alex, because we spoke about the European legislation. Because you want to go, you want to leave us, I know.
No, I don't want to talk.
So it is about this, now how we understand well, I hope, and this, thank you for this panel discussion. We understand well data spaces, what is the aim and the benefit, and the risk also, what we need to develop now. Have you think in Slovakia that we are famous with gold plating? Do you think that this implementation of the all European legislation, which waits for us, will be successful?
We see it doesn't work because we are stepping on the same place. If the regulation coming from Brussels are strong, and if we are much stronger, and this question for Peter maybe. And it's always we are asking every minister, every government not to do that, because we are not moving forward. We are staying on the same place. In best case, we are losing investors, and we are then doing lobbying and running behind the government, go there and you have to repair. Peter, is this true? It is. It's not good. In that case, we are asking always, this is the next question, we are asking or representatives in Brussels not to do in law something like, we recommend to be in the scala from this to this. We are asking them, put a number, then is the number the same for everybody, because we are always paying a lot and getting nothing back, the industry. Don't do that, please, because we are then lost. We are losing our competitiveness and so on. This is also what we are doing. But I would like to react to the Smith. If they are not forced from the state to become digital, they will not do that, because if I have to bring everything in paper, I have no need. If I have, for example, 60% discount of my cost, why I should to have a computer? At the year end, I have one number minus 60%, and I am paying this money as a tax. It's easy. Everybody is looking for the easiest way to survive and not to pay any tax. That's true. But if the state is on the end or on the end of this digitalization, what we should expect?
Yes, but you are right that the state has to motivate and create this ecosystem. So I think the Ministry of Economy and State Secretary that we understand that digital transformation is not about IT. It is about the sectors, about the manufacturing, about the health, about the cities. Yes, Roland? Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I would also ask two, I would like to have two pleas. One is we see that these different regulations that are coming, there's a lot. Some of these are contradictory to each other, and that is something which is not good, of course. And the second point is sometimes there are definitions and it is not clear what it's all about. And that is also very difficult. One problem, one idea or one example, sorry, is it should be a climate-friendly production. Now, what does climate-friendly production mean? What should a company do to set up a climate-friendly production? If there are some aspects of that, and it's just one example, very small example. We see a lot of definitions where it's not clear for companies what to do. And in that case, of course, they're hesitant to invest, because if they do not have a possible return on investment, or they are not sure whether maybe the interpretation of a definition might change, they wouldn't invest. Why should they? So these are two very important points for us.
The answer is very easy. They need to have a data to have a transparency, and then make a strategy and go the way how to reduce. This is the easy answer.
We have the last minutes of our panels, and it was quite technical and a lot of data spaces. So now we will speak about hubs. We have two hubs here, Gaia example Austria, Gaia example Slovakia. We have Gaia ASPL. We have two EDIC here, EDIC in Austria, EDIC in Slovakia. We see that we have automotive exactly. Yeah, but what I want to say, because we will become IDSA Hub Slovakia today, maybe what is, have you seen the role or the benefits of the hubs, and have you seen the hub benefits in Austria and the role of the also Austria? So you can say only the good things.
There are only good things, actually. No, we have a lot of hubs all over Europe and also outside of Europe as Gaia X ISPL. And we have a very good and close cooperation with the hubs. And the hubs are our voices to the market and also our ears to the market. So it's very important to have these hubs, to have as many participants in these hubs, and the hubs are really acting as ears and mouth, as I said, because they are creating the local or regional environment for the specific companies and SMEs to share news, to share ideas, to collect or to provide ideation and innovation. And then that's why a hub is so important. And we are happy to have a Slovakian hub besides many other hubs all over Europe.
Well, this weekend we had a strategy meeting, but we exist since about 1.5 years, and the first activities were trying to promote what it's all about when we talk about Gaia X, and all what's coming up, what are the potentials, etc. And we had a lot of events, and our flagship event, and Peter, you said it already, was the Market X conference. And that was the first time where we also tried to have booths where there are concrete use cases, so that you get a look and feel about what it's all about, data sharing. What we have decided now last weekend was that, of course, we will continue communicating about what's coming up, what's the potential, etc., and tried even more so to, on the one hand, to make small and medium enterprises understand what's in for them. Also, and that was also a learning I had, tried to find a language that makes it easier for Austrian policymakers to understand it, because that's really important. Because, of course, we would like them to come up with light tower projects in the public area in Austria. And then we would like to have, but this would start then, let's say, end of 2024, starting of 2025, some kind of training program, both for students, but also for people that are in companies, because we see, and I put it on in a broader picture, it's about data ecosystems. And that is also a new way on doing trade or whatever. And there's hardly any training course, or that we haven't found one in Austria, on data ecosystems and how to address and how to make value out of data. And we need some kind of training for that, and and of course we would try to, and we have done. I'm in my sort of normal work. I'm the managing director of the platform Industry 4.0 in Austria. It's the Austrian national platform on that. So we are very active in the manufacturing area, and we set up in last May the domain manufacturing, where we tried to put together all the projects like iProGigant and many others. And we provide various workshops, initiatives, etc., events to address the community. In that case, it's particularly the manufacturing community, and we would like to do that also in other sectors like media, like health, like circularity, etc.
We come to the IDSA Hub Slovakia, so we will start with Frederick, and after we will go with our last question for each panelist. What do you wish to the IDSA Hub Slovakia?
Sorry, again?
What do you wish to the IDSA Hub?
Health and prosperity now.
I take the notes. Yeah.
I hope that it will be it will become a very large community that helps to collect requirements from the market and spread news and innovation to the market.
Well, I'm very concrete. The EIT manufacturing, and we're including that, work on a proposal for an Interreg project. And there we would like to foster the cooperation between Austria and Slovakia. And we've written in the proposal also that we would like to talk about manufacturing acts or data sharing in the manufacturing area. So I'm really looking forward to a lot of joint workshops and experience exchange.
Okay, very briefly, I wish you to be useful for our industry and to bring some profit to our companies.
Only the best, Martina. Only the best.
You know, in the standards world, we have a saying that there's this rule of 1, 9, and 90. One person writes, 9 people comment, 90 just watch for the result. And so my wish to IDSA is that they will have more than one Slovak who joins and actively participates and helps shapes the future of data spaces, because I know you have very good technical universities. I would love to see the people coming out of those universities being active in shaping data spaces.
Yes, so for me, adding one aspect that was basically by you, Ivana, brought to the table, the aspect of SMEs. I mean, here we are talking English. Everyone in the room seems to be fine. I'm at least not seeing anyone sleeping because you are not able to follow. That's good. And also for me, traveling a lot, it feels like English works. But go to SMEs that are somewhere far outside of cities and try to explain them what a data space is and how a solution for them could look like in English, and see how that works. Yeah. So I think the aspect of being a national contact point for companies and people in the first place, creating a community that also in their own language can exchange thoughts, create use cases and solutions, is not to underestimate. Even though in Europe, and like I said, here in this community feels like English is fine, it's very, very important here.
So big applause for Frederick, Roland, Ivana, Alex, Peter, and Christoph. Thank you. And now we will see a concrete project, iProGigant. So welcome, iProGigant in Bratislava, and floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Martina. Hello, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants of this excellent event here in Bratislava. My name is Wolfgang Kniewski. I'm from EIT Manufacturing East, as my colleague Lubica, who introduced already EIT Manufacturing. I will not talk again about EIT Manufacturing, but I will focus on iProGigant and talk about how we see that it will be possible to orchestrate data exchange, data gathering in the future in the manufacturing sector. So I am since more than 30 years in technology transfer and innovation management business. I run my own innovation management companies since more than 20 years. And in 2013, I was hired by EIT Body Lease to build first the EIT Digital Accelerator to bring innovation to SMEs. And when EIT Manufacturing was created, I was one of the first employees. I switched within the EIT family to do business development and bring innovation to SMEs. So I will not talk about EIT Manufacturing anymore, but what is very important that EIT Manufacturing runs a big ecosystem of stakeholders in manufacturing. Not only the big corporates like the voestalpines, BMWs, Volkswagens of this world, but also focuses on innovation support for the mid-cap companies, for the SMEs, for micro companies, helping startups, helping governments to understand where is the need for support and so on and so on. The ecosystem is crucial. Because if you understand the needs of the ecosystem, then you also will understand how to make the ecosystem more important, more efficient. And this is why EIT Manufacturing exists. We want to make the manufacturing ecosystem competitive again. Production industry in Europe is the backbone of our wealth. Depending on the different countries, the manufacturing sector contributes between 15 and 22 or 23% to our GDP, to our growth, and we have to keep it. We have to protect the European producing companies. And this is the goal of EIT Manufacturing. So we bring innovation to companies and make them innovative. And as Roland was saying, we were talking since 2013 about Industry 4.0. They don't work following Industry 4.0. I talked to a cuckoo clock producer in the Black Forest area in Germany. And I said, why don't you get rid of your paper on the shop floor? Why do you track everything on paper? Why don't you use modern technology to see the throughput of your machines, the output of the day and the months and whatsoever? And the guy was answering with a typical German word with 2 digits. Hä? I am running my company since 40 years, and I will run my company the next 40 years. So what is the problem with your innovation, with your paperless shop floor? And now convince the same entrepreneur that he is more efficient if he is able to exchange data, that he is either on the way to save cost or that he is able to gain profits with data exchange. It's almost impossible. Yeah, but we have to start it because we heard today about the value of data gathering, data sharing, data exchange in big ecosystems, not only in manufacturing. This is why we built the UPO Gigant project as an initiative, which was, next slide please, already coming out of EIT Manufacturing together with many, many other companies in the consortium. And I want to talk about how we bring this to life, how we establish a federator which is orchestrating, moderating the data exchange. I'm not talking again about the right side of the slide, the ecosystem governance, the technical architecture framework. We heard a lot about this, and we have the key players with Gaia X and with IDSA in the room who provide the components of this technical architecture. I want to focus on the federator. If you go to the next slide, you will see, as it was already mentioned, we don't want to go the holistic picture in UPO Gigant and cover the entire manufacturing sector and use cases. This is impossible. There's too much going on. So we focus also on 4 use cases. And I just want to talk a little bit about examples. Imagine an SME, which is producing components for bigger parts, products, whatsoever. And he decides strategically, I need to build on a new component in the future, maybe produce with new materials, maybe contributing to circularity. The first big problem that this small and medium company has is, how do I get the data for my CAD systems? And our idea is he goes to the federator, knocks on the door and says, hey, federator, I need CAD data for a new component. I need it in the format of STEP, or I need it in the format of CATIA, and then I want to use it. So this SME does not have to invent the wheel twice. This is one of the ideas. This is what we want to promote with federation. Give another example. reducing the carbon footprint is a must, not only from a regular point of view. Yeah. So I have to report not only on the footprint of my product that I produce on my shop floor, I have to report in the future, what is the footprint of my supplies? So I am very interested, even as a very small SME, to understand if I buy some supply products, components in China and transport them from Taiwan to Rotterdam, and then maybe by train from Rotterdam to Germany or to Austria or to Slovakia, what is the footprint? Yeah, and this is data which can easily be shared because I know what a ton of material cost when I put it on the boat from Taiwan to Rotterdam. And there again comes the federator into the game because I have the footprint that I can report. I can share this data with all companies that use shipping from Taiwan to Rotterdam and then further on with the train. But this value may change over time. I may have, instead of diesel-operated ships, hydrogen-operated ships. So the footprint changes. So somebody has to be up to date. And this is the federator role. And this is why we're operating in use cases, and we selected 4 of the most urgent use cases as we think. And as I said, the next slide, please. We are a consortium of different partners. So it's not only EIT involved with the hub in Germany and with the hub in Vienna. So representing majority of European countries. It's also companies of any kind, startup companies, micro SMEs, SMEs, mid-cap companies, and even the big corporates, as you see, voestalpine, for example, there. And we have not only manufacturing companies, we have infrastructure provider, which play also a certain role in the data exchange. Telecom AI, software AG as infrastructure or software or service provider, and so on and so on. So there are many, many players that work together. And if you go to the next slide, you see what my role is in this project. So I'm not talking on the about the technical development. I talk about the business. What is the value for the businesses? And in order to understand it, we did first a value chain analysis. We interviewed companies in the manufacturing sector to understand what do you expect from data exchange. If you work with a data federator who's orchestrating data gathering, what is your input or what can be your output? And based on the lessons learned, we developed the service models and the business models for it. And not the business model that enable data-driven businesses. We know that enough of them already exist. Yeah, we developed the business model for the federator to bring real life into the federation business. And this is not only about how much resources do I need to run a federator? It's also about what is the legal requirement and what legal shape do I put it and so on and so on. Now let's share some lessons learned with you. So basically, when you do the value chain analysis, we look at the federator, say you orchestrate the data exchange and the general use of data, the data sharing. You have to make it compliant. You have to respect regulations. You talk about certification standards, and you talk maybe about value-added services. But I want to understand, what do the data consumers expect from me? And what do the data providers expect from me? In order to understand this, I have to understand what do those entities, players provide. So they not only provide data, or not only consume data, maybe they consume analyzed data for forecast or for reports. Maybe they consume infrastructure like cloud services to enable data exchange, and so on and so on. So I have already a very heterogeneous ecosystem of players in this. And when you summarize all, you find many, many, many stakeholders. As I said, corporates and manufacturing, SMEs, mid-caps, startups, but not only producing companies. An AI from Austria or the telecom from Germany could be interested to understand through data exchange, where are steps in the manufacturing processes where huge data are being processed. And they can use this information to sell customer binding 5G services to those companies. Academia is interested, universities, research, to work with real data, coming from real life on the shop floors, not only with theoretical data. So there are many, many beneficiaries, standardization groups, certification groups, associations, especially of SMEs, and so on and so on. And when you try to cluster those groups, then we said, okay, what is the impact that data exchange will have on those different stakeholder groups? And we clustered them into key stakeholder where we expect huge impact, into primary stakeholder, medium impact, and also we consider the secondary stakeholder with lower impact. And now the question, how can we describe this input and output? How can we describe the interaction of those stakeholders with the federator? And what we did then is shown in the next slide. We described what is the information flow between such stakeholder and the federator, or the federator and such stakeholder. What is the product flow, the service flow, the quality flow, or the money flow between an entity that wants to sell data or share data and an entity that wants to consume data? And when you do it, you can sketch these different flows. We are using here the different color codes for the quality, product, service, money flow, and so on and so on. You can draw it for every stakeholder. And I don't want to bore you now with going through the list of stakeholders and how we did the analysis, but I want to show the result. And the result is the following picture. If we run a federator efficiently, and if we manage and orchestrate the data gathering between consumers and providers, then we will talk about the multi-sided business model. So the federator has a front-end business in which the core customers are the companies, is the government, because also the government needs to understand where are the challenges in the industry. How can I set up governmental support programs to enable getting companies to Industry 4.0 or 5.0, to circularity, to human-centric applications, and so on and so on. But there are also back-end beneficiaries, as said, academia, telecom companies, cloud providers, and so on and so on. And if you go the next step further, then you can say, understanding that we are talking a multi-sided business model for such a data federator, we are not talking about linear businesses. The federator is not buying data from somebody and selling data to another one. We are talking about this kind of platform business. And the next slide shows then how it looks specifically. Here we have the federator set up in our theoretical model, and all the technical suppliers of our consortium provide now the architecture to make it happen. And we say, if there's a data consumer, let's say this SME that wants to have CAD data in CATIA, he knocks on the door at the federator and says, hey, federator, I need CATIA data from this and this provider, or I need CATIA data for this and this component. And the federator says, okay, I have my catalog. There are a verified provider with credentials. And these are the names of those. Go and talk to them. So the federator is just providing the information, access to the catalog. And then the consumer goes directly to the different providers and negotiate his data business. It's not a matter of the federator. It's an individual one-to-one business negotiation, so that the liability for the business lies also between the provider and the consumer. And then the technical framework enables the secure, safe, trustable exchange of the data. And there it does not stop. It continues. Because at the end, the federator goes back to the data consumer and says, how was this business? How was the provider? And does a quality control, as Airbnb does a quality control, or Facebook does a quality control, and so on and so on. This is how we want to run this business. And now when you go to the next slide, you will see what is the value. Yeah, the value is that if we have this multi-sided platform, yeah, we have two-way value flow from consumer to provider and the way back. And the federator is in the middle. We have networks effect. We can scale the business also into SMEs. If we do the awareness raising, if we do the right campaigns, if we do the motivation. This is why we want to go to the platform. And at the end, all starts with raw data, but we turn with customized data, then data into information. And if we talk about exchanging analyzed data, we turn then even data into knowledge. And this makes our manufacturing industry competitive. And this almost closes my presentation for today. There's a lot of things to do. We want to establish this federator in around about 12 months from now. And now that we know how the business should look like, we talk about the technical components. How do we do the clearinghouse functions? What is about identification, authentication? How do we share data safely? Is it blockchain? Is it VPN tunnels? And so on and so on. But we have the supporters. We are under the Gaia X framework. We know that the technical architecture is provided also by IDSA. We know that there are private providers like Delta DAO. So there's a lot. And at the end, we will do it. We will establish this federator. And what was also said in the panel, there's then cross benefits, because it's not only manufacturing. Yeah, there is cross exchange with automotive, with urban mobility, with maritime, and with other sectors. And this makes Europe big again. Now I'm ready for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Wolfgang. So now we are coming to the close remarks. Please, our State Secretary from Ministry of Economy, Mr. Peter Švec, can you come here? And also with Mr. Marcel Sedlák from HB Ravis, our Slovak company, very famous. Please come here and you can make a close remarks.
Hello, hello. Yeah, it works. Thank you. Thank you for this excellent occasion to see, to listen those presentations and this discussion. Maybe 3 points from my side. The first is a little personal. I think every one of us, or each of us, each human is a source of data. And in private life, we are sharing our data, our knowledge, different data with different people. It's different things you share with your wife, different things you share with your boss, and different things you share with public. And this is very important to create the right environment for sharing data. And I don't know who likes popcorn. Can you raise the hand? So, and you know that for having right and good popcorn, which is sweet and good for consuming, you need to transform the grain on popcorn. And for that, you need oil in right temperature to get oil in right temperature. And it changed this hard data, or the hard grain, on good popcorn, which is then fine for consuming while being in cinema or watching the football game, and so on and so on. And so this is one of the picture how important is to create right environment for sharing data, for having the profit of existing data. And we know that there are lots of data in different companies and different businesses, and it's a role of government to prepare and to create appropriate condition for sharing data, and to increase or to allow to increase competitiveness of all business in our economy. So last point, Ministry of Economy is just now creating interministerial working group, which will be created in coming days, coming weeks. And this is agenda what we will pass to new leadership of Ministry of Economy and to government, so that they can continue in getting Slovakia on board. So all and many things what was said, what was mentioned here, I will definitely pass to my successor, to new minister and their team. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you. I have to say that for us from HBRF, this is really an honor to host this high-profile event, professional presentations, then really dynamic discussions on a topic about data spaces. from the data spaces even to the popcorn. That was a really broad topic we covered today. We in HB Ravis, we are coming. Today we talked a lot about the manufacturing data space. We are coming from very different industry. We are those for don't know us. So we are a real estate office workspace provider. 30 years on the market, 1.5 million square meters of commercial space delivered. Still more than 500,000 of the square meter under our management. And you would say that, okay, what it has to do with data. We are talking about the digital space. We like a physical space. We like spaces like this. Actually, we designed this building, and we are really happy because that was exactly the idea. Not create only standard office workstations, but also event space, community space here with this exchange or really vibrant discussion and exchange of ideas, creating of ecosystem. It was exactly our idea when we couple of years back created this space. So when it comes to, I think somebody said that in car there is more than 1,000 sensors. Actually, in this building, you will count tens of thousands sensors. So real estate and data is very much connected, and our aspiration is really, and that's the purpose why we are taking part and cooperating with Gaia X, with also IDCA. Together to especially on the environmental part of collecting the data energy, but not only that, also social data and extracting the maximum of the value, not only on economic side, but also on the broader on a social side. So coming to the end, really looking forward to be one way or the other part of initiatives, activities run by Gaia X and IDCA. And last but not least, a big credit also to everybody who is behind the organization and also participants. And I'm looking at Martina because I think somebody mentioned it before, that Martina is someone who can make things happen. So thank you very much. And now, Martina, you are coming here.
Thank you very much.
So Martina, when you now cut the ribbon as a signal for becoming a hub facilitator, also my closing words for this great session, I think this is a starting point for a great, vivid community that you are about to guide here through this sometimes confusing, sometimes overwhelming, and sometimes tasty popcorn community that creates trust in data. And I'm really looking forward to the work that we have ahead of us. So thank you for being with us, and thank you for this excellent starting point, which I don't see as an event. For me, this is a strong commitment to go for trust in data, to go for data sovereignty over data isolation. And congratulations to you. I think we both share, no, the scissors. Thank you. I'm about to cut the ribbon now and looking forward. Thank you so much. We cut twice. Perfect. And one for you. Who else needs one?
And for you. Very much.
We also have, so Carlos, yeah. Let me hand over the certificate for cooperation. I hope it will find a beautiful spot on the wall in your offices. It's matching your color, yeah.
Gratulujem. Gratulujem. Pardon.
So it was the last point of our presentation and panel and all single discussions. Thank you very much to all panelists. I think now Slovakia will speak only about data spaces and popcorn. So I think it was quite long. I am looking forward to cooperate with IDSA, Gaia-X and all these European and world initiatives in Slovakia for benefits of Slovakia. So please, we can now to continue with our network event. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.